Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, Doug says he's ready to get up here and start insulting you. So we're going to get the program underway. You all continue eating. All I'll ask is two things. One, please no conversation out there. It's very distracting when someone's trying to speak up here. And two, we know you want to continue eating, but clink gently. Now, as we start, I'd like you all to look around at this room full of people, because I want to remind you, every one of you just paid $60 to hear a talk. You're all a bunch of whipped dogs. What the heck is wrong with you people? And I have a confession and an apology to make. I had a little bit to do with launching the superstar rocket that became Doug Casey. 29 years ago, a manuscript crossed my desk, written by a guy I'd never heard much about. I'd read a little bit by him, but was told, this really is something. We took a chance on it. I think we paid him nothing as an advance.
No, we paid him $500.
$500? Did we? $500? Good. That book, Crisis Investing, thanks to the brilliant marketing of Robert Ringer and the brilliant contents of Douglas R. Casey, became the #1 bestseller in 1979. Led the New York Times list weeks after weeks after weeks. It launched Doug as a book author, as an investment writer, as a newsletter writer, as a world traveler. I don't know how many polo horses it paid for. I don't know how many countries he's visited, but it's been a lot. As I said, it was the rocket that launched him into the stratosphere. And for all of that, I want to apologize. I'm really sorry. Anyway, please join me in welcoming one of the four horsemen of the modern apocalypse, Doug Casey.
Thank you. And although everything that Chip said is more or less true, I've got to tell you that I actually did have a #1 bestseller before Crisis Investing. It was The International Man, and it was the largest selling book in the history of Rhodesia, believe it or not. And that occurred in 1978, the year before that. And now I've been to, well, it's well over 175 countries, but I don't know exactly how many. All right, now let me start out with friendly greetings and a warm hello, and a warning that I suspect most of you all are not going to particularly care for what I have to say. But before I get into that, I've been scanning the room previously, and I'd like the federal agent in the audience that's here to monitor the potentially seditious activities that are going on to please stand and identify yourself in a polite manner before I'm obligated to point you out to your embarrassment. So go ahead. Oh, Jack, you've been a double agent for years. Well, that's the reason I do that sometimes, and I like to do that in audiences because I figured one of these days I went to a tax haven conference that was really very, very edgy, iffy, in the Cayman Islands about 15 years ago. And I said that just as a goof, and not one, but two people stood up, and they weren't Confederates like those guys. So these guys really are out there. The Dark Riders from Mordor really are among you at this point. All right, since there's no federal agent in the office, I'm going to tell you a joke. Many of you heard. It's my favorite joke to warm an audience up. You're supposed to tell a joke. And my joke is this. A lot of people ask me, they say, Mr. Casey, who are you to be giving financial advice? You've never even had a real job in your whole life, which is true. And they ask me, why is it? Why haven't you ever had an actual job in your whole life? And I tell them, you know, on those employment application forms where they ask you, do you advocate the overthrow of the U.S. government by force or violence? I always answered violence. So, but I don't like to tell that joke, and I'm not kidding you. I'm really not. I don't tell that joke in the United States anymore because because the agents of the empire are out there and they make notes. That's what they do for a living. That's what they get paid for. They put you in their computer bank. Unfortunately, and I said America just then, didn't I? But America doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It's dead. What it's been replaced with is the United States. And I didn't say these United States. They used to say these United States years ago. But now they don't use that anymore because that would imply that it's not one country, that there's actually a bunch of entities. I don't want to even see 50 states. I want to see 300 million individuals. And I certainly don't want to see one country. That issue was settled in the War of Northern Aggression in 1865. But I've got to tell you that America, anyway, even though it doesn't exist anymore in reality as geography, it's never been a piece of geography. It's always been an idea. It's been an ideal. It's not a piece of geography. But we don't live in America anymore. You remember in the 1950s that we used to, when we were kids, a lot of us were kids back then, and you know, when you're joking around and doing something stupid, you say, hey, it's a free country. You ever notice that people haven't said that for 20 years? Kids don't use that joke. I'm not kidding you, right? Am I right? And then in the 70s, there was another great joke that I liked. It went, hey, America's never going to have concentration camps. We'll call them something else. And we do, detention centers. So that day's arrived. Things have changed in the United States now. It's becoming like Eastern Europe used to be. Everything that's not obligatory is prohibited. And it's going to get much worse, I can promise you. There's just no damn freedom in this country anymore. There's no running, there's no jumping, there's no swimming, there's no fishing, there's no speeding, there's no loitering, there's no backsassing when you're going through your TSA. There's no juking, there's no jiving, no juking, no jiving, no socializing, no blowing dope, snorting coke, practicing your stroke. There's no sex, no drugs, no violence, except on the part of the government. No alcohol, tobacco, firearms. They got a whole agency to regulate that. Those are the three things you need for either a good party or to go hunting, frankly. And I forgot, there's no smoking. I mean, this is like become the cardinal sin to have a smoke. I mean, it used to be that you could have a smoke after lunch or after sex, but I'm going to have a smoke before I'm executed, which is the other time you're allowed to have one. And the fact is, now a lot of you people are out there, a couple of you guys got wine, and you're thinking, well, hell, that's the law, and I can party a little bit, I can have wine with my meal. But let me tell you something. 80 years ago, I wouldn't have been breaking the law. You'd be breaking the law. And that's the trouble with America today. You people all just do as you're told. It's the law, so you accept it and you do it. Let's see if there's a little bed bug that crawls out from under the darkness and tries to arrest me. Let's find out. I like that. Now, well, normally I prefer a cigar, but a cigar is an all-day sucker. This happens to be, incidentally, an American Spirit. The American Spirit's dead, except on a cigarette pack. It's rather ironic. But you might remember, here's a bit of trivia for you. I love movies. And in the movie Escape from L.A., in the last scene, it's what Snake Plissken was smoking. It was, I thought it was a little thing. If you watch that movie, great movie, incidentally. He was smoking an American Spirit cigarette. So.